Hey guys, in today's video, you can learn to create e-commerce application using React Vite, Nodejs, MongoDB and Context API. So this is our homepage of e-commerce web app. And you can see different varieties of product here. If I zoom in, you can see the responsiveness is also good. In the navbar, we have the filter by option. We can list or render the products based on these categories. Here all contains all the products present. Men's clothing only contains the products of men. Similarly, we can also list the jewelry item. These are of the electronic. Finally, we have the women's clothing. And in this home page, we have only the product name and price. So for more information, we need to click on this product. You can see this page has the detailed information of the product. We can also see the rating of the product in the form of stars and also the count of the customers that rated this product. This part includes the description of the product. If I click on this bracelet, it will display the information of this product. The rating of this product is higher than the previous one. We have also included the half rating star. If I click on add to cart, we are redirected into the login page. It's because we need to first sign in order to store in the cart. If we haven't created any account, we should first create it. We can click on create your account here. And this is our sign up page. I can provide username to Smith23. Let me also include the email and password. Then let's click on sign up button. You can see we are getting sign up failed due to validation error of password less than 6. Let me provide password more than 6. Now we can see sign up successful message. It's also stating that we can proceed to login. Then we can click here in sign in. Now let's provide our credential and click on login. We are redirected to home page, but now as a user Smith. We can also check by adding to cart. Initially the cart is empty because we haven't added any product. Let me add this product. Now if I click on add to cart, we have badge 1 shown in the cart. It means our cart contains one unique product. I have increased this badge number according to unique products we inserted in this cart. That means if we add another product to cart, it will be 2. In this cart page, we can see the product's quantity, price, total and the subtotal. I will again add the new product. Now the cart contains 2 different products. We also have this add and delete button. Add simply increases the quantity of this product. You can see now the quantity of this product is 2 and the total price and the subtotal is also updated. Subtotal will calculate the total amount of all the products present in the cart, and delete button simply removes the product with decrement by 1. Now let's try for a new user. Let me log out from here. I will now register for Harry. If I try to register with the same email, it displays email already exists message. So email should also be unique. Now let's proceed to login. So this is the home page for user Harry. I will also add some jewelry in the cart. Let me also add this hard drive. So we have the card 2 for user Harry. And we know that we only had one card for our user Smith. We can also confirm it again by logging as Smith. So this jacket was in the cart of Smith. Let's go back to the account of Harry. This is the full flow of our e-commerce app with authentication and cart functionality. So do watch my full video to complete this e-commerce app. Since we will be using Vite React, I will open my Vite project which I have already set up. You can see it contains the main.jsx. This is our package.json with all our dependencies in order to customize our own CSS. We also have our tailwind.config.js. You can also watch my video on how you can set up React Vite and configure your Tailwind CSS, which I have also provided on my description below. Finally, this is our app.jsx where I have customized my own CSS. So our project will have two parts. One is the client and the other one is the server. We will include this Vite in our client folder. So let me close this. This is our Vite folder. Let's create a new folder and name it e-commerce. So I will just include this Vite folder inside this. We can name this to client. This will simply represent our frontend for our e-commerce. Let's now open this in VS Code. You can see we have our Vite setup inside the client. And for the backend, we will be using Express Node.js. We already had built our login system using Node.js. I would recommend you to watch that video in which we also had performed authentication and also the MongoDB connection. I have also provided the link of that video on my description below. If you haven't watched that video, you can also get the source code directly from the GitHub that I have provided. So this is our Node.js login system folder. And we will rename it to server and simply paste this inside our e-commerce folder. Now on our VS Code, you can see we have our server folder. Inside this we had implemented controller for our authentication. This is our Auth Middleware. We had used EJS for our view part. Later we will also modify this in Vite since now we will be using Vite for client rendering. We also have our schema for login and sign up. Finally, this is our index.js. We also have the MongoDB connection. Now let's proceed with our e-commerce. Let me create a new folder data. Inside this, let's create file named productdata.json. So here we will be storing our API for e-commerce. We can get the built REST API from FakeStore API. You can search for FakeStore API on the browser. Just click on the first link. Scroll down and you can see resources. Then just click on the products. You can see different products in JSON format. Just copy all of this and simply paste in our productsdata.json. So we have 20 products data. Let's make a separate folder DB for Mongoose. Inside this, let me create connection.js. In our index.js, I will just include the server start and Mongoose will be included in this connection.js. So let's first import Mongoose. Inside this connect DB, we can include the try catch block. For the error, we can just copy this from our index.js, which is the fail message. And for the try method, we will simply copy this Mongoose connection and paste here. We should also include await for this. On its success, we can give console of connected to MongoDB. And you can see we had already stored our DB URI and secret key in the login system part. Finally, let's export it. And in index.js, we need to import our DB. We can remove this mongoose part. We can just call our connectDB function here. This part will start our server after validating from the MongoDB connection. We don't need mongoose import here. Let's create product schema.js inside the model folder. In Mongoose schema, we will define the structure of our document. Let me import Mongoose first. We can include fields inside this schema. For product schema, we can include title, which would be the product name. And also the price. For the price, the type would be number. We can also include the minimum length property to the description. So I will include all the field property mentioned inside the product data.json. Inside rating, it will contain the rate and count. This line create a collection named products based on the schema. Inside that collection, we can store all the data for the products. Finally, let's export it. Now in connection.js file, we should insert our JSON inside the database. For that, we can import our products.data.json. And we need to use create method to store it in database. So here product model.create is used to create and insert documents into the collection linked to product model. That means on starting the server, the products data will be stored in MongoDB collection, that is products. Now we can navigate to our server path. Let's install nodemon using npm install save dev nodemon. We don't have to keep restarting server with nodemon. In package.json, you can see we have now nodemon in dev dependencies. So inside the scripts, we can add start scripts and it will execute nodemon index.js. Now we can run the server using npm start and it will include nodemon. Before that, let me first npm install. Now we will npm start. You can see server is started along with the MongoDB connection message. In our MongoDB Atlas, if we go on browse collections, you can see collection products. And if we click on it, we have all 20 data of our products. So we have successfully inserted all our products in database. But there is one problem with this approach. Since we are inserting products after connecting with Mongoose, due to this the products will again be reinserted after the server start. So we don't want that. We only need to make sure that it's inserted only once. Now on the code side, we can provide the condition that only if product count is 0, we will insert our product. So we can count the products using count documents. It's a Mongoose method that is used to count the number of documents in a MongoDB collection. And once the product is inserted, the product count will obviously be more than 0. So for 0 case, you can use this create method. You can also provide this product inserted message. Otherwise, we can just skip this indicating product already exists, skipping insertion. If I again restart this, you can see it's saying skipping insertion. Now no more product will be added. Since our product count is 20, this create method is not called. And in Atlas also, you can see there is only 20 items inserted previously. It is not being reinserted. So I will show you the case of create method being called again. Let's delete this. Now we don't have product collection and the product count will be 0. Now if I run this again, you can see we are getting product inserted message because we had deleted the collection last time. And you can see here also we have the 20 product. So now the count will be 20. And if we again restart this, we get the message product already exists. So now there won't be repetition of products. That was for database. Now let's create product controller.js inside the controllers folder. Here we will include the logic for returning our products from the database. Let me import product schema first. Inside this return all products function, let me also include try catch block. We can also console our error. So here product model.find method fetches all the documents in the product model collection. We can also see in the console. Now let me export this. And in the routes folder, I will create a new file, product_routes.js. Let me import Express and return all products controller. Now we can mention the route for our functionality. I will just give the route to root path of the router. Then let's register this route in index.js. This will be app.use and I'm gonna give its path to /API/products. Now in order to access that controller, our route will be localhost/API/products. We can test this in Postman. Before that, let's run our server. I will add new collection and name it to Ecommerce. We can then add request. This can be named all products, and our route for get request will be http localhost 3000 /API/products. Let me send this and check in the console. Then we can see we have all the 20 products in our console. So nothing's wrong with returning product from the database. Let me cancel this. And we can now send data to client in JSON format. Now we are also able to retrieve the data in our response. Now we just need to call this API in our frontend. Let's proceed to our frontend part, which is the client. Then we need to navigate to client folder. And in order to run our Vite project, it's npm run dev. We have our port. Let's control click on it. This welcome to Tailwind CSS is returned in the browser since we had customized our app.jsx with this text. Now in our app.jsx, let's remove this. You can also delete this app.css. Inside the src folder, let's create folder named components. Inside this we can create another folder, Navbaar. Let's add navbaar.jsx. We will be creating our Navbaar portion for our e-commerce project. And for any component to work, we should connect it in app.jsx. So in the return, let me just include hello world. Now back in our app.jsx, we need to first import Navbaar and let's include it here. So let's control click on this port and you can see we have the hello world on the browser. So we can now start working for our Navbaar. So the class name I provided here are used for CSS. Later we will also work on that. In the leftmost header, we can provide text e-commerce. And here filter by will simply contain the product based on the category. Later we will make it dynamic, but for now we can include the category statically. So we can provide option of all, men's clothing, women's clothing, jewelry, and the electronics. From the dynamic response, we have these all categories for the product. Now let's create navbar.css inside the navbar folder. We also need to import it in our navbar.jsx. This CSS would be based on our class name in navbar.jsx. So you can just copy the CSS along with me, or you can just get it all from my GitHub code. Let me complete for all element. That's all for now. We can now proceed for the content below the navbar. Before that, let's also create a new folder, utils. I'm gonna create hooks.jsx inside this. So here we will configure our axios method. Let's npm install axios in our client. Let's also import useState and useEffect hook. So this URL will be the parameter passed to the useFetch hook when it is called. So when calling this useFetch in other component, we will pass our endpoint. Initialize our data as an empty array. We will update it after the data is fetched. And let's also include the state for loading and error. Now we will be calling API inside the useEffect. Now let's fetch the API using axios. And set the fetch data here. Once the data is fetched, we can set loading to false. And inside the catch block, we can set the error to true. Finally, let's call our fetch data. So this use effect hook will run after the component mounts. We can now return our data, loading and error. Then let's export it. So we have created use phase that simplifies fetching data from an API endpoint. So for fetching the product, we have already created product controller in which all the products are written. In the client side, we can create the product context. We are gonna use Context API. So Context API is used in React in order to create global state of data, and it can be accessible to all the components. It also eliminates the need of prop drilling. We can render any products directly from the context. So this create context method helps to create context. Now inside the product provider function, we can call our backend API. So the data has been fetched from axios. We can assign data property returned by useFetch to new variable product data. And let's pass our backend controller for returning all the products inside the useFetch. We also need to create .env file inside our client folder. And in Vite, we also need to include Vite prefix. So we can name it Vite backend URL. And let's include our backend port. And in Vite, we need to access env using import.meta.env. It would be Vite backend URL and /API/products. Now we can include the value of product data is loading and error. So these values allow components consuming this context to access and update the state. And we should wrap children with product context.provider. In order to check, we can console the product data here. Now let's go on our main.jsx. We should wrap our app component with the product provider. As we know that we are fetching data from different domain, we should have course configured on our backend. So course is a security mechanism that restricts us from accessing resources of different domain. So let's first npm install course on the server. And we can import this in index.js. In this middleware part, we can include app.useCourse. Now we need to run our server as well as client. For that I need to split terminal. One terminal should be of client, so let me navigate to client folder. I will npm start on server and npm run dev on the client. Both of our client and server is started. If I open this port on browser, you can see we have our Navbaar, and on filter by also we have the multiple option. So let's inspect here. We can go to the console and you can see our products data in the form of array. We have all the 20 products in the form of object inside this array. Here I will make a slight change. I'll put this box right below it. For that, let's go to our CSS. Just add margin top to 5px for the level. And inside the select, the height can be set to 40px. Then add this CSS for collection sort class. It's vertically positioned now. And I would also like to change the font size of the label. And let me also reduce the size of the box. Here I will include the font size. And let me paste in select also. This will be 1 rem. Now you can see we have this in good position. So now we just have to render these elements below this navbar. So we will create a new folder containers inside the src. And inside this we can create another folder home layout. That would contain the home layout.jsx. Now we can directly reuse our product context. First, let's import our product context. In order to access product context, we need to include use context. So this means we are accessing these fields from the product context. Now we can proceed on using this. So we will only use our products once the loading completes, and if there is no error, we can use JavaScript map method to loop over each element of the product data. We will also include index here. This can be useful for adding a key prop to the elements. Now we will create a new component product card inside the components which will accept the product data as props. So inside product card folder, our JSX will be product card.jsx. In the product card component, we will retrieve product's title, price, and image to display on the UI. We will complete this part later. Let's first complete our home layout. Now import product card and pass product as data. And index to key. In case of error, we can display message some error occurred. And in case of loading, we can give loading. Now back in our product card, let's fetch our data. We can use link here. For that, we need to first install React Router DOM in our client side. Then we can import it. Is component by React Router DOM, which enables navigation within the app without refreshing the page. We can include its ID in the path. So currently this route is not being routed to any products. We are just sending the ID of the product with this route. We can get the image from data.image. And similarly, we can also fetch the title and price. We have successfully completed product card, which returns the product image, title, and price from the data passed as props through the home layout. Let me create folder pages inside the SRC. And here I will include home.jsx. We will simply use the component home layout. Now on our app.jsx, let's perform the routing. First, we need to wrap the component with browser router. And inside these routes, we should include route component with the path. We can give it to slash for home layout, and the element would be the component we want to render, that is the home. Then make sure your project is running on both client and server side. We have our image, price and title, but you can see it's not in good position since we haven't used CSS for it. And if I click on any product, we can get its ID on the URL. Let's complete our CSS part. We can create home layout.css inside the home layout folder. You can get CSS directly from my source code also, or you can copy along with me. So this would be CSS for our elements. I'm just gonna include for all. You can also pause the video and include it. We'll also be including for different class name. And finally, this media is for the responsiveness. Then let's import it. You can see we have the product's image, title and price with proper styling. These last two products have larger size. We will also fix this later. First, let's complete the functionality part. We can now proceed on fetching single product after clicking on it. Since we already have the product ID on the URL, we can create a controller for returning the product with the past ID. In our server part in the products controller, we can create a function return single product. For the catch block, let me just console the error. So we can get the product ID from request.params. We can then use the find one method to fetch the product with the matching ID. And let's send the selected product. In case of no product, we can send the message product doesn't exist. And let's also include this function in our exports. Finally, let's provide the routes. We need to include /: product ID. And here it would return the single product. Let's go to Postman. We can add new request here. This would be the single product. And suppose I want to get this product, that is men's casual premium t-shirts. So I'll just copy this ID. The route up to the products would be same. Then include that ID here. If I send this request, you can see we are able to return this product. Similarly, if we want to return this woman's bracelet, we can also check by passing its ID. And we also have returned this product. In case if we pass an ID that doesn't contain any product, it will simply return product doesn't exist. Now we just have to fetch this in frontend. So inside the container, I will create details layout. This will basically contain the single product with all the properties of that product. Let me first import useFetch, inside which we will be passing our backend API. We need to extract the product ID from useParams. Let's import useParams from React Router DOM. We will be extracting data, is loading, and error. Then I will include the API inside the useFetch. First, it will be the backend URL from .env, and the endpoint is /API/products. And the product ID value. So product ID is passed as params to the return single product function of the product controller. You can see it is fetched using request.params. Finally, this product is sent to the client. So let's check in the console. We can create page like that of home. So this would be details.jsx. I can just copy this. I will simply paste here. And this would be detail layout. I will modify this to details. Finally, in app.jsx, let's import details page. For this, the routes will be /products/:product ID. And the element will be details. Now let's check whether we are able to retrieve console of the products. We can click on this jewelry. We have the jewelry details in the console. And we can also check for next product. Let me click on this micro pave. We also have fetched its details. So we have it on the console now. We will render it in this page. Now you can remove this console. We will return the product if no loading and no error. I'm gonna create another div inside this photo container, which will be for the image of the product. We can fetch the image using data.image. I will add the button for add to cart also. I will include the title, category and price inside the products info div. Let me place title in H1. And category will be in header 2. I will also include the price now. Price can be fetched using data.price. Finally, the detail page can have description in about the products. That's for the detailed layout of the products. Now you can create details layout.css inside the details layout folder. Let's include the CSS. I'll just keep adding for all the elements. This would be for the button. And finally, this would be for our responsiveness. Then let's import in our details layout.jsx. Now let's go to our project, and on clicking the product you can see our image, and on the right we have all the details about the image including title, category, price and the description. We also have our add to cart button. We can also see detail of other product. This is the detail of gold micro pave jewelry. Now we will include rating of the product also. If we inspect this, we also have the rate and count property in our API response. We can use this rate for star rating, and count can be used simply for how many customers rated this product. So below the category, I will create div for rating. For star rating, I will create star component. Let me create new folder star inside components folder. This will contain file star.jsx. I will just export this component. Let me import this in our details also. We can pass the prop stars to the star component. It simply passes the value of rate. Let's also include the count value. We will include it for the number of customers that rated the product. We can include the rating component from a material UI library. It is used to display a rating system with stars. So we need to install the packages first. So I will install the 4 dependencies, that is MUI material, icons material, emotion style, and emotion react. Now we can import the rating. And we can destructure the stars from the props object in this way. The rate values can also have value in point. So we should also manage it into the floating point number. For that we can use parse float. If it's not undefined, then it will simply execute parse float stars. In this div, I will include some of the Tailwind CSS classes for the styling. So this determines the current rating value displayed by the component. We can also mention it read-only. So here precision 0.1 means the rating can display value of 1 decimal place. That is even for 3.1, 3.2 or any other decimal. And also let's include CSS for these changes for the class name rating section and count. Now let's go to our browser, and if I click on this product, we have the star rating for this bag. You can see we also have included our count as customer rating. Similarly for the women's clothing, we also have half type stars. Since it's 2.6, it's little bit more than half. So that was all for the rating part. Now we will proceed towards the authentication part, which is the sign in and sign up. So in our server part, we have the views folder. Since we had used EJS previously in our login system, we can delete these partials. We won't be requiring it now. And remove this dashboard also. And for this login and signup.ejs, we will be using in our frontend. In our index.js, let's remove this middleware. And this EJS can also be removed. Let's also remove these routes. Let me also shift this product and auth route above the server start part. So now we have only the essential codes. We will also be making slight changes in the check user, which is the auth middleware. So for now, I will simply comment this. Now in our client side, inside the pages folder, we will create auth folder. And inside this, let's create signin and signup.jsx. And I will simply copy from my EJS and paste here. We need to make changes since now it will be in JSX. Let me also copy and paste for signup. I can delete these views from the backend. This top part can be removed. So this would be our signup function. I will remove this script part below the form. We will wrap this form with section. Let's also include one more container. This would be header 1 with class name heading. And for all the field we will add div. So this would be for username. For should be changed to HTML4. To fetch the initial and onChange value, we should create the state. So we can declare a new state. Initially, form data will have empty string for our fields. We can also create state for the errors. Then let's create function to update the change. E is the event passed to the event handler. We will now extract the name and value properties from e.target, which represents the HTML element. In our case, an input field that triggered the event. So this spread operator copies all the existing properties of form data object into the new object. Then we will dynamically update the state object based on the new value. Actually, this closing braces is of our function, which should wrap the return statement. So here the value will be formData.username and onChange will be the created handle change function. So the changed value will be dynamically fetched here. So let me also include errors, and it will be the errors.username. Similarly, let's complete for the email also. Actually, this div should be above it. And for wrapping email, I can copy of the username. This should also be HTML4. And the value in this would be form data.email. And the error for the email would be errors.email. Finally, let's complete for the password also. The form structure for password will also be the same. Let's change for to HTML4. And also include value and on-change for password. Finally, we can modify for the errors. This sign up button should be below this div. As this button is submit button, type should be set to submit. Now for the form to submit, we can create a new function. So this e.prevent default is used to prevent default behavior of the form, that is to reload the page on submission. So this will help to reset the error state. Then we can extract the values of username, email and password from the form data. Let's perform axios post request for sign up. We can fetch our backend URL from env. Once go to your backend auth controller. While building login system, we had rendered this sign up and login page from EJS. Now we can remove this return sign up page and return login page function. So this create user will be the API for our sign up, where we have also checked for duplicate email, created a user in our database, generated token for that user and stored token as a cookie in our browser. We had also performed validation check. And in our routes for auth, we can remove the route for the removed controller. So for signing up, we have the route /signup. And remove these two from the export also. Now let's go back to signup.jsx. And we can pass the username, email and password as the request body. If we are able to get data from the response, we can show the message using toast, which is of the React Toastify. Let's import toast container and toast from the React Toastify. We can also include the CSS. For that, we can import the dist. So component toast container can be placed here. For successful signup, the toast notification can be sent with this success message. I'm gonna style this to top center. Similarly, for sign up field, we can give the message and update the state with specific field errors. I will modify this to sign up field. Please try again later. Let's also update the errors. Now we can include this function on this form. So our onSubmit will have the handle submit function. Similarly, let's proceed to sign in now. This will be our sign in function. Let me add section similar to sign up. I can remove this script part. Let's change this as to heading 1 with class name heading. From our sign up, let's copy from this email part to this button. Then we can paste it in our sign in. So I'll replace the copied code with this part inside the form. We will also modify this based on the login requirement. So this email and password form will be the same. Here the class should be class name instead. I think we forgot to rename in our sign up also. So yeah, let's fix this. Let's go back to our sign in. For button, this can be modified to login. Here let's also include the div for the form container. In our sign in, we can also add don't have account text. And if the user haven't signed up, they will click on create your account button, which will redirect them to sign up page. For redirection, we will be using navlink from React Router DOM. And the toast import will be the same as that of sign up. Above the section, we will include the toast container. So now from sign up, let me copy all of this, starting from the use state of this function up to the handle submit function. And simply paste below our sign in function. For sign in, we don't need this username. I can remove the username from the error part also. Now we can directly pass form data as the body, and our endpoint will be login here. After successful login, we can perform routing. Let's import use navigate from React Router DOM. So here navigate is a function returned by the use navigate hook provided by React Router v6. On success, we can simply redirect to home. On error, we can replace this sign up field with login field message. Now let's include this handle submit on the form. So we are left with the CSS part where we will include for the sign up as well as sign in. For that, we can create auth.css. You can just copy it. So I will include CSS based on the class name of sign in and sign up. That's all for the CSS. Let's import in our signup.jsx as well as signin.jsx. Now we can include signup and sign-in routes in our app.jsx. So for signup, we can include /signup. And for sign in, it can be /signin. Now let's go to our browser, and we are facing the error where I guess we forgot to install our React Toastify. So first let's install that on our client. It would be npm install React Toastify. Then let me again start my project. Now there is no error. I will add sign up here. We have our register page. We will also make slight changes, that is text size will be larger, and you can see the button is also not properly wrapped. We will fix this also. I will make these changes in sign in page also. So if I include the sign in endpoint, we have our login page which consists of email and password field. We also have create your account button which on clicking redirects to sign up page. Let's go to our auth.css. Inside the form container label, we will remove this font size, and here in btn class, I'm gonna add padding with this value. Finally, we have improved this field text size and also provided proper wrap size. You can also see on hover, its color changes to dark blue, and login page is also fixed. Now I will simply add console for the sign up response. This sign up response is called from the auth controller create user function. Here we are also generating token after creating user in Divi. So we can check by console. Let me inspect this. We can go to console. Let's fill this first. We can put username to Jack. Email can be jack@gmail.com, and I will also set the password. If I click on sign up, we are not getting any response here, and also no action is being performed. Let me check if there is any issue in the code. Here everything is fine, but we are not getting this response. There might be some issue with axios. Yeah, we forgot to import axios here. So let me import axios. Now if I again click on sign up with the changes, we have the sign up success message, and we also have the response with token generation and the user data. You can also see token value generated in the console. You can see we also have set our JWT cookie on the client's browser. So it will simply attach a cookie to the HTTP response. In our application, we can view the cookie, but you can see we are not getting any cookie here. So we will look this in code again. We had also provided message for sign up field. So sign up field can also occur if we try to sign up with the same email. If we sign up with this jack again, you can see we get email already exists along with the sign up field message. Regarding the cookie, let's check in our code. Yeah, I found the issue. As we know that we are using axios for making request to the server, we can't just accept the cookies credential with just a post request. Here we should also include with credential to true in this request. This will simply allow cookies to be sent in cross origin request. And in our backend index.js also, only app.useCourse is not enough now. We should include our front-end origin here, that is localhost 5173. And credentials should be true. This cookie is very essential since we need to maintain user session. Now let me create sign up for next user. The user would be John now. If we sign up now, we can see the cookie value. That means we have successfully set up cookie in our client browser, which has a great role in authentication and authorization. Let's also make change in our sign-in part. We should import axios here also. And set with credential to true, similar to that of sign up. After successful login, the user is redirected to home page. And in our backend auth controller, we can remove console of token from create user function. For the login functionality, we have generated token after comparing password, and we have also set the cookie. We can also view created user in our MongoDB Atlas. Let's proceed on browse collections. And inside the user, you can see newly added user. We had created sign up for Jack and John, which you can see in the form of document. Let's proceed on login page. If we log in for Jack with wrong password, it simply notifies with login failed message. Now with correct credentials, we are able to redirect to home page. We also have the cookie being set. We can also check for another user John. So it's working perfect, and there is also cookie value in the browser for user John. Now we will be focusing on homepage products, rendering based on these categories. On all, we will be listing these all products. We also have other categories which we will be rendering based on them dynamically. So in this part, we should make it dynamic. Before that, let's go to product context.jsx. We can create the state for a category where it will initially have all value. Let's include these two in our context values. Now back in our Navbaar.jsx, let's import our product context. and we will fetch the context values. We can only fetch set selected category because when context is updated in set selected category can have access to new value. And if there are multiple same categories, then we will only show once in our filter by option. That is, in our case, we know that while looping on products, many products can have same categories of electronics and other categories. But in filter by, we will only show electronics once and render all the products that belong to electronic categories. So in order to remove duplicates, we can use set here. So this spread operator is used to convert set back into the array. Then we can map our products and fetch the categories. On no loading and no error, we will render select element for filtering categories. We will add the onChange handler here. So when a category is selected, set selected category function is called with the new value. Now let's remove this. And for fetching category dynamically, we can allow to iterate over the category array. So the key equals to index uniquely identifies each option. In case of any error, we can give error loading categories. And for loading, we can just provide loading. Now based on the category, to render our products, we need to modify our home layout.jsx. Here we will take the selected category because it has the updated context, and we will just be taking its detail rather than updating. Now we can provide the condition that if selected category is all, we will return all the product. So that when a specific category is selected, only the products in that category are included in the filtered products array. For that, we can check if the product category matches the selected category. Now this will be filtered products in which the mapping will take place. And we will also ensure that length of filtered product must be greater than 0. Otherwise, we will provide message of no products found. That's all for our product listing. Let's go to our browser. Nothing's wrong with all. If we select men's clothing, you can see we are only seeing the products that falls under this category. Similarly, these are of the jewelry category. We also have the electronics. Finally, these are the women's clothing. Now we can include sign up and sign in our Navbaar. Let's use Navlink. We will link this to /signup. Its color can be made white. I will simply copy this. And let's also modify this to sign in. Now let's include CSS for it in the Navbar. So this would be CSS for class name right. And this is for navbtn. We have already imported CSS. So now you can see we have these two auth in our Navbar. On clicking sign up, we are able to redirect in the sign up. Similarly, on clicking sign in, we are able to retain our login page. Now on clicking add to cart, we will add the product to cart with quantity, price of that product. The cart will also contain total amount of the added products. Since the cart functionality will also be reusable in the different components, let's create cart context inside our context folder. We need to first create context. The cart logic can be implemented in our backend. On our controllers of the server, let's create carts controller.js. Then we need to import our schema. Before working on this, let's also include our cart array in the user schema. This will basically store details about specific product in the user's cart. Inside this, the product ID field will have type which represents MongoDB's object ID. We will provide reference to product. Similarly, the cart will contain the quantity. Price, image, and the title. As we know that we have also performed the functionality for hashing password in our schema. It can again be called if the cart's data are modified. This may result in auth issue as the password of that user may rehash. We will skip the hashing process if the password has not been modified. So this line will check whether the password field in Mongoose document has been modified or not. In case of not modified, it will simply call next and the below part will not be executed. Let's also import our product schema. This add to cart function will contain the cart functionality for adding in cart. We will be fetching the product ID from the request body. And for getting the user ID, we make user available in the request.user. This can be done in the middleware. We will also set up user value in the request.user in our middleware after this. After that, it will be available in this part. Let's use find by ID method to fetch the user from the document also containing the cart array. In case of no user, we can simply return 404 status stating user not found. We can fetch the product by passing the product ID. In case of no product also, 404 can be returned with product not found message. Now we will be using find method to find a specific item in the user cart array, where the product ID of current item matches the product ID from the request body. And if the product exists, we will increment the quantity of that product by 1. If the product with given product ID is not found in the user's cart, user.cart.push adds a new item in the cart array with the product ID, quantity, price, image and title. Then save this in database. Finally, we will send the updated cart array from the user's data as the response. This would be the error message in the catch block. Similarly, let's complete for remove from cart. Fetch the product ID from request body in this part also. Then the user ID can be used to find the user from the database. In case of no user, we can return status 404 with user not found message. Now we will update the user.cart array by performing mapping and filtering. The map method iterates over each item in the user cart array. And if the product ID of the current item matches the product ID being processed, the quantity is decremented by 1. All items are then returned into a new array. Then the filter method removes any item whose quantity is less than or equal to 0. Finally, let's save this and send the user.cart as response. Then for the error, we can simply mention error removing from cart. Let's export these two. Let me create the route for cart also. I will simply import my function from the cart controller. Both will be the post request. For add to cart, I can give endpoint to /add, and for remove from cart, it can be set to /remove. Now let's proceed to our middleware part. Since we will be requiring it for validating the user's cart, we had implemented this check user for the response from EJS. Now we can remove this. We won't be requiring user schema import too. For this require auth function, let me first include try catch block. If jwt.verify throws an error, the function returns a 401 unauthorized response. Let me also improve the naming. I will remove this to user, and inside this if condition also it will be user. Now we can attach the user object to the request object in this part. So from this request.user will be available in our cart functionality. This next can be left as it is to pass control to the next middleware. If user is invalid, it returns 401 unauthorized response. If no token is present in request.cookies, the middleware returns a 403 forbidden response. So that was all for the middleware part. So after the middleware attaches the user and calls next, the user can be retrieved here. Now in index.js, it would be f.use. We can set path to /cart, and let's include the required auth middleware. I will remove this check user. Here I am importing my cart router. Now this cart router can be included after this middleware. So this simply means require auth checks for valid token, and if valid, cart router process the route logic. Now back in our cart context, we can use the created add to cart inside this function. The product ID here will be fetched after we pass the product ID after clicking on add to cart. We will be passing the ID from our details after implementing our cart context. Let's complete this catch block first. I will create the state for our cart item using use state hook. Let's also import our products from the product context. In case of product loading, error or no products, we are gonna exit the function. Now let's use axios post and include the backend URL. And the endpoint for add to cart, which will be /cart and /add. In the body, we will be passing the product ID. And we should also include with credentials since it also involves cookies in the client. Finally, we will send our response data in set cart items. Similarly, let's proceed on remove from cart also. For the loading case, it will be same as add to cart. This would be error removing from cart. The endpoint would be /cart/remove. And let's update the cart item state with the response. Finally, we can wrap these values with cart context.provider. So we created the context for our card and successfully fetched add to cart and remove from cart functionality. We can now proceed on details layout. We will be importing add to cart from the cart context. And now inside this handle add to cart function, we will update to add to cart state with the product ID. We can also import use navigate here. Then we will simply perform navigation to /cart. Now we can simply include handle add to cart inside the on click of add to cart button. Let me also console to view the product ID. In main.jsx, cart provider should be wrapping the app component and it should be inside the product provider. Now if I click on add to cart, you can see we are getting our product ID. And the product ID is also passed inside the add to cart function. As you can see its console. Now for the details inside the cart page, we can create products cart inside the container folder. First let me import cart context. we will extract all the functionality from the cart context. The heading can be your cart. I will also console cart item here. The map function is used to iterate over the cart items array. In this line, item.id is used as unique identifier for each cart item. In this page, we will include the image quantity, price, total, and the subtotal. So for image, it would be item.image. Title can be included in this header. I will first include the field for quantity, price, and total. Then their values can be included in this div. I will add values in this class name for different styling of values. We can make total to bold. The total of the product can be calculated by multiplying price to quantity. Here 2 fixed 2 converts number into string with exactly 2 decimals. And the add button calls the add to cart function when clicked, passing item.product_id as an argument. This is used to add corresponding product to the cart. And the remove button calls the remove from cart function. This is used to remove the corresponding product from the cart. The subtotal would be the total amount for all the products present in the cart. We can calculate using the reduce method. Here the reduce method iterates over the array cart items and accumulates the value. The accumulator keeps tracking of the running total. For each item in cart, it calculates price by multiplying its price and quantity. The result is added to accumulator. After all items are processed, the reduced method returns total price of cart. 0 represents the starting value of account. In the header tree, let's include calculated total price to the subtotal field. Let's also provide various conditions for loading an error state. In case of loading, we can display message loading your cart items. Similarly, for error, we can include failed to load cart items. Please try again. We can also provide message for empty cart condition. That's all for the product cart. Let me create cart.jsx inside the pages folder. This should be cart, and here we will import the products cart. Finally, let's add the route path for the cart. Make sure your project is running. And if I click on add to cart, you can see we are facing error with status code 404. Let's go back in our cart controller of the backend. Error 404 can be due to product not found. Yeah, we made a slight issue here. Actually, this should be request body instead of params. Let me also check for remove from cart. Nothing's wrong here. Let me also sign in as John. Now if I click on add to cart, you can see we are able to get the cart page with the added product. In the console also, we have this product information. So we have successfully fetched the product in the user's cart. Now we will work on its CSS. We will also be adding logout in our Navbaar and on our MongoDB database for the users collection also. You can see the card being updated for user John. So this array 1 contains the product added in the card. Inside the products card folder, let me create productscard.css. I will start including the CSS for card. You can copy along with me. Since our card page have many class name, its CSS can be little bit longer. These details row field are for the quantity, price and total fields. This card total would be for our subtotal. Finally, we will include media query for the responsiveness. So we are done for the CSS part. Let me include this in productscard.jsx. Now we have the product card with proper styling and it's also responsive. As soon as I click on this add button, quantity is updated and total price is updated to 44 now. Subtotal will also be same as total since we have only one product. If I add another product, the subtotal will now be the sum of these two total. We can also check for delete by clicking on it. Looks like we have got some issue in delete part. Let me inspect this. You can see we are getting 404 in remove part. So 404 means user is not found. Yeah, user ID has slight issue here. It should be small I. We had made it capital. Now it should work. So that product is removed. We can also reduce this t-shirt quantity. Now it's only one. Similarly, if I delete again, our cart will be empty. Now we can proceed to including logout in our Navbaar. In our auth controller, we had already implemented logout functionality where an user's JWT is being cleared. We will slightly modify this. We can remove this redirection part and include status 200 with logged out message. We can also see the routes for logout here, which is /logout. We will be needing to pass authentication state through different component. So let's create auth context.jsx in our front end. First, we need to create context. Then inside our auth provider, we can create logout user function and fetch logout API from the backend. This will be our GET request. And the endpoint is /logout. And we should also use with credentials to true for including the cookies. On successful response of status 200, the user is logged out by clearing the local storage, and we will redirect the user to sign-in page. For invalid response, we can console logout failed message. Let's also mention the error in catch block. Finally, let's provide logout value to the auth context provider. Back in our navbaar.jsx, let's import our auth context. This should be logout part. Let's extract logout user from the auth context. So for the logout button, we can use onClick to include our function. I will also style this. In main.jsx, auth provider should wrap all the provider. Now you can see logout present on our navbar. And if I click this, we are unable to log out. Let's identify the issue. It's axios not defined. I guess we didn't import axios. Yeah, we should import axios here. Now we are able to log out. We can now proceed on fetching these cart items directly through the cart in Navbaar. We will place the cart before logout. Our path for cart page is simply /cart. I will also include badge for showing number of items in the cart. Let's import that from Material UI. Shopping cart icon displays a cart icon from the Material UI component. Let's import that too. For now, we can provide static value to cart count. So I will include the cart count in the batch content of batch. Then shopping cart icon with white color. Finally, I will include the cart. Let's again go to our browser. I think there is issue with badge import. Actually, it should not contain curly braces. And I will also add CSS for cart icon. Now you can see we have the cart with icon and the badge. Let me log in again. Now if I click on cart, you can see it's showing empty cart. But if we add using add to cart, new added product along with the previous one is displayed. So we should include the function to fetch the cart initially after the user logins. In our carts controller, let me add get cart item functionality. First, let me fetch the user ID. Then we can find the user from that ID. In case of user not found, we can provide same message as of this. Finally, we can provide the response of this cart with user.cart. Then let's include the error in our catch block. I will then export this function. Then let me create get route for get cart item. Back in our frontend in cart context.jsx, first let me import use effect. In this function, we will be fetching our get cart item functionality. The route endpoint is /cart. And also include with credentials to true. With the backend response, let's update the cart items value. And this would be for the error. Then I will simply call my fetch cart items function. Now if I again click on cart, it's still showing empty. If I reload this, we are able to get the item, but API calls are being repeated continuously. It's because we haven't provided any dependency array, due to which it runs on every render of the component. So we can mount on the basis of authentication state. And if I click on back button, we can see we are sent back to login page. So this should not happen. If the user is authenticated, they should not be redirected to login page on clicking back button also. So in our auth context, we can create the state for authentication. We will manage this authentication by checking the cookies. So in our backend auth controller, I am going to create auth function. First, let's retrieve JWT from cookies object in the HTTP request. If no JWT is found in cookies, the user is unauthenticated. The JWT.verify method checks if the provided token is valid. A secret key is used to sign and verify the JWT. This ensures only server that issued the token can verify it. If the token is valid, request is successful and user is authenticated. In case of invalid token, we can provide status 401 and response of authentication to false. That's all for checking auth. Back in our route, we can include its path. Now we will call that function inside this use effect. This would be get request with /auth. And we can update the state based on response of 200. Then if response status is 200, is authenticated is updated to true. And for status not equal to 200, we can provide console here. Then the catch block will handle the authentication state to false. Let me render this function now. This empty array means the effect runs only once after the component mounts. Now inside this logout user also, after status 200, I will include set is authenticated to false. Then let's include our auth state to provider. We will import the auth context in this cart context. And let's extract the is authenticated from the auth context. Inside this fetch card item function, let's check for user's authentication. If the user is not authenticated, the code inside the function will not be executed. We can now include the dependency array to is authenticated. So when there is any changes to authentication, we can fetch our card item. And for an authenticated user to not allow to move back to login on clicking back, we need to make changes in signin.jsx. Let's import auth context here also. we need to extract the auth state from the context. This use effect will be responsible for redirecting the authenticated users to home. I can give the condition here that if authentication is true, page will navigate to home. For the dependency array, I can include here is authenticated and navigate. And after sign-in response, I will set here set is authenticated to true, because the authentication state should be true on successful login. Then let's log out now. And you can see after logout, we have status 401 and user not authenticated in the console, since authentication should be false after logout. Then let me again sign in as John. I think we have provided incorrect path for home. Our path for home is only /. Now if I log in, we are on home page, and when I click cart now, we have all the items added in this page. If I click on back from home, you can see we don't redirect to login page after authentication. So now we can proceed on making the cart content dynamic. On our navbaar.jsx, let's import cart context. And we can fetch the cart items. So the cart count can be the length of cart items, that is the number of unique items present in the cart. Let me also extract is authenticated from auth context. We need to display sign up and sign in only for unauthenticated user. Let me include the condition here. I will also add home in Navbaar. And this home page should redirect to home. I will shift this below sign in. Let me also provide auth condition for cart button. This would be same for logout also. Now we will use this filter by option only in home page. For that we can import use location. Then we can adjust with comparing path by location.pathname. So we will only render this if path of our page is the root path, which is the home page. And for sign up, it should have not operator here because it should be shown before authentication. And let's include the same for sign in also. Now you can see we don't have logout and cart in this Navbaar. The filter by field is also only available in the home page. Now we will also work on this. If the user is not signed in and tries to add the product to the cart, we will redirect them to sign in page. So in details layout, first we will use same authentication from Auth Context. We will then modify this handle add to cart. If not authenticated, navigation will be to sign in, else it will be as before. Now if I add to cart, we are on the login page. But after user login, it will simply be added in their cart page. And if we add same product to cart, then quantity price is increased, but cart count will be same. It's because we have increased the count based on number of unique products added. So let me go back and add new item. Then you can see count updated to 4. And we will now work out on the CSS. You can see the home navbar height and the other page differs. So we will fix this to equal size. And also you can see these two end products are slightly displaced. We will fix that too. And I will also provide container for all these 20 products. In details layout.css, we should cut this image part from here. And simply paste in our home layout.css. I will modify its value to 250px. Then inside the product card, add margin of 10px. And let's remove text align center from the product info class. Now you can see we have the end product size fixed, and also the products are wrapped with the light box. So everything's fine with the categories also. And to fix the navbar height, simply add height of 110px to product filter class. And inside this sort, gap can be set to 3 rem. Now we have gap increased, and the navbar height of other page is equal to home. We also have got a slight issue here when we render products of other category, and if we come back to this page after other redirection, we are unable to retain the state of all. In navbar.jsx, let me also import selected category from the product context. I will include current value to selected category. Now this should solve. Yeah, we have solved this issue. Now let's see the flow of our e-commerce application from the beginning. I will go to my sign up page. I will register for Sarah. And on clicking sign up, we have the sign up success message. Let me then sign in with these credentials. So we have different products on our home page. We can also list items based on categories. Let's add this bracelet to our cart. I will add this product again. The quantity is 2 now and the total price is also updated. I can also add this biker jacket. The cart is also updated to 2. The subtotal value is also being updated. I can delete this from cart also. And finally I will add this t-shirt. Again it's perfect. We can also log out from here. I can again re-log in and retain Sarah's state. That's all for our e-commerce application using Mon. In this video, we have successfully created e-commerce application using React Vite, Nodejs, MongoDB and Context API. Thank you guys for watching this video.